Hello students, in today's session let's learn about collective bargaining, tripartism and social dialogue. The collective bargaining extends to all negotiations between owners and workers in an organization. It extends to one or more employers, organizations on the one hand and one or more workers, organizations on the other to determine the working conditions of employment and or regulate relations between employers and workers and or regulate relations between employers and their organizations and workers organizations or workers organizations. Collective bargaining is a method by which trade unions protect, safeguard and improve the conditions of their members' working lives. The participants in the process are employers or their organizations and workers representatives, usually trade unions. The government is involved as a third party. Individual bargaining between an employer and his or her employees is not regarded as collective bargaining. That process usually culminates in the conclusion of an agreement, usually known as a collective agreement. Collective bargaining is a means of joint regulation by employers alone or through their organizations and workers' organizations. Respect for rules and regulations depend on their formulation. Collective bargaining provides the opportunity to formulate rules by mutual consent. Some view the process of collective bargaining as one of the unions sharing governance with management. This influences regulation or rule making and results in a contract. In most cases, the dynamics of economic and political factors and forces together determine the outcomes of collective bargaining. Concept of collective bargaining: according to ILO, freedom of association and the right to collective bargaining form an integral part of ILO Declaration on Fundamental Principles and Right to Work. OECD's core labor standards, WTO's social clause and the United Nations Global Compact, all the four refer to same labor rights. In some countries, it is considered the duty of the employers to engage in collective bargaining. Nature of collective bargaining: in Australia, it is not the employer's duty to have a collective bargaining. Cyprus and Malaysia distinguish between rights issue and interests issues. Discussion can take place on interest issues, working conditions and rights issues concern the interpretation of do's and don'ts in the course of an employment relationship. There is a distinction between market relations and managerial aspects. The former can be a candidate for collective bargaining, not the latter. Market relations are concerned with wages and working conditions. Managerial aspects have to do with issues like assignment of work and adjustment of workforce. In India, anything can be bargained under collective bargaining. In Malaysia, hiring, reward, transfer, promotion, assignment of work and adjustment of workforce are explicitly recognized by law as managerial prerogative. Collective bargaining provides for procedural and substantial rules. Procedural rules concern mechanisms for dealing with interpretations and implementations of agreements as well as resolving conflicts, whereas substantial rules concern the substance of the agreement in both markets, terms and conditions of employment and managerial relationships, control on manning, transfers, promotions, etc. Collective bargaining is viewed as a process of give and take rather than giving in. The future of collective bargaining process is dependent upon cooperative process. Trade unions are concerned about the secondary effects of cooperation pacts. Unions are working for the survival of the company, but unions' perception that they will be treated as unions is still strong. With the evolution of industrial and employment relations, in the fact of rapid changes and significant advances in technology, among other things, collective bargaining became in some sectors in countries an instrument of social change. Shift in the labor and product markets created pressures as well as opportunities for a new approach to collective bargaining. After 1970, collective bargaining started addressing the challenges of jobs, incomes, social security, changes in organizations, skills development and governance. A survey of collective bargaining in different countries over different time periods revealed that economic, institutional and political environments have a bearing on the kind of effect that collective bargaining has on the economic performance of firms and the well-being of workers. Important complementaries exist between key aspects of the bargaining system. The impact of individual aspects of individual Aspects such as union density or centralization of bargaining cannot be assessed in isolation. Contrary to popular misconception, neither labor nor labor laws are the real problem behind India's lackluster performance in industry. India has been leveraging on cheap labor for long until now. Even though the proportionate costs of labor have been declining, there are still high due to low productivity. Asian Development Bank noted that the poor and weak social and physical infrastructure has been the bane of India. The pressure of competition is making people understand the need to take a holistic view of business, people, technology, environment, structure, systems, processes. Workers and unions are realizing that in reality, it is the customer, not the employer, who guarantees the job and income and their well being. Employers, managements, and unions workers are acting together to make their firms competitive and to save the maximum number of jobs if necessary with trade offs. Negotiated changes in response to economic liberalization and enterprise restructuring mean for most workers accepting workforce reductions, job wage trade offs, and the consequential reorganization of work, which in turn is leading to doing different things, multi skilling. Hope you have got a good insight on collective bargaining. Until we meet again, bye.